Good evening, everybody. Welcome here to the sixth race of the season for the MSRA Reaper Speedlab Truck Series. As here tonight, we get ready to go racing at Richmond International. I'm Seth Cole, being joined alongside of Kyle Lawrence. Kyle, 200 laps await these drivers at this three-quarter-mile short track. What can we expect to see, especially with the fact these drivers are out there in the trucks this evening?
I'm going to be looking for tires out there today, Seth, here at Richmond International. Richmond is a short track, but it kind of feels like a speedway, and it's really all about saving those tires. I expect long green flag runs here today, Seth.
Yeah, tires are going to be very important. Of course, this series runs with a tire limit. These drivers will start in the sets they have at the green flag. They got 4 additional sets waiting for them, so be interesting to see if we have cautions where they fall, what the tire strategy will be for these drivers. Another thing that we also have to keep an eye on is who's got their truck set up for the short run, who's got their truck set up for the long run here, because you never know. We could end up having a number of yellow flags in the early going. Drivers try to get track position, but at the same time, we could also have drivers really mind their manners, go into a long green flag run, and start to get an idea of who was able to preserve those good years the best.
Yeah, we're going to figure out here probably within the first run, I'm thinking, on which drivers are going to be stronger on the longer runs throughout the day and which drivers are going to be stronger on the shorter runs throughout the day. And we'll have to see in the last half of the race which one of those drivers will be superior depending on what happens on the racetrack with caution flags and such.
Christopher Pfeffer is going to get the pole position here this evening, 1 week removed from his runner-up finish at Circuit of the Americas. He's still searching for his first checkered flag of the season. He'll be alongside of part-time driver Agno Phillips. There's last week's winner from Coda, Boyd Hogan, rolling off from the 3rd position, comes into this race as the points leader as well. I mean, obviously the momentum seems to be in the camp of the 96, but you gotta wonder if being a short track, the first time that we've come to a short track this season, if we're gonna start to see some other drivers up there towards the top of the leaderboard and maybe go into victory lane for the first time this year.
Yeah, certain drivers definitely thrive on short track specialists, if you may say. And we'll see what drivers might be able to come out here and put on a great performance here at Richmond Raceway. And we have
Really
drivers like Tanner Love at the front of the field, and Casey Tucker, some names we're not used to seeing at the front.
Yeah, interesting. You bring that up. A lot of the big names towards the back because 25 drivers are going to take the green here tonight. Only 14 elected to put down a lap time in qualifying. Kenny Brady, Andrew Navarro, they'll start back in row 8. Jonathan Delaney and Christopher Hill back in row 9. Top 20 completed by Braxton Deweese and Richard Clement. Kevin Roy, Rick Webb back in row 11. Matthew Van Gelder and Corey Hassler in row 12. And bringing up the 25th and final spot, Richard Malugani. So, as the pace truck will make the left-hand turn to pit road in the next lap, with it being less than a mile in length. We got an extra lap to be able to talk about some stories here. And one thing that kind of stood out to me is different drivers had different lap times at the top of the leaderboard during practice, but it took them different number of laps to get there. Most laps turned in practice was Nathan Jurgensen. He was second fastest, but had 120 circuits in practice. However, you had a guy like Agno Phillip. He was up 4th on the board, and he had only turned 3 laps in practice. So, obviously, these drivers, they test the setup during the week. It's going to be interesting to see if practice is a telltale story as to who to watch on a short run or a long run, or if these drivers just maybe have had a little bit of extra practice, didn't need to lay down as many laps during the official practice session earlier tonight.
As the pace truck pulls down pit road, we're going to get the green flag here at Richmond. It is waving for the number 66 of Pfeffer, and they're going to go into turns 1 and 2 with Boyd Hogan right in behind him.
200 laps, 150 miles in total, as Pfeffer will clear for the top spot. We're breaking in the back. That's Navarro and Patrick Stein, the 42 and the 98.
Very hard contact for the 98s, that front end, it looks like, and the left side. Accident off turns 1 and 2 here on lap number 1 of 200.
back, take a look at what happened. This would have been just around the 15th position or so. Like they were 3 wide, actually. They're going through 1 and 2. Stein in the middle. Top side was Brandon Andrews with Navarro on the bottom.
Very hard accident off the corner for those two. Very early on in this race, I can see them possibly recovering from that incident. But yeah, as you said, just 3 wide coming off the corner a little bit there and just reaction situation.
Let's see if we can go an onboard with Andrew Navarro, because that 98, it didn't even look like a snap loose for him off the corner. That was rather an abrupt turn to the left for him, so I'm wondering if there might have been something a little bit behind the scenes for Patrick Stein there. I wouldn't think this early on you'd see a car get that loose that quickly.
The truck just went straight left off of the corner there, Seth. You hate to see it this early in the race, but maybe he just gassed it a little too hard off the corner and just these tires are cold and just whipped it to the left at that point.
You talked about the opportunity for recovery being this early on in the race. The one thing that I would point out is Richmond is not much like your short tracks of Bristol or Martinsville with short straightaways. It's rather lengthy straightaways here on the backstretch, and then that rather left-hand type turning front straightaway. So you do kind of need that horsepower for some straightaway speed here to be able to make sure you don't lose a position or two by the time you get into the corners. When you get in the corners, it's not as much about speed as it is finesse. So it'll be interesting to see, especially as you mentioned there with that 98 of Patrick Stein hitting with the front end, if he's going to be down some horsepower and if that's going to affect him for the remainder of this one.
Yeah, still very early on, a short track. You can survive with a little bit of damage, but that is pretty heavy damage on Stein. But we'll have to see how his truck and how he reacts to that damage on the machine as the lights have gone out on the pace truck here. And it looks like the number 66 of Pfeffer has decided on the inside lane. Phillip will be up high. Hogan's going to be right behind him in row number 2, and Jurgensen on the outside of row number 2.
Stein and Navarro both came to pit road, got some repairs done, returned back to the track on the lead lap. Maybe an unscheduled pit stop for Tanner Love, as he just came down at that 1 to green signal in the 28 truck. So we'll follow up on that, see what might be amiss on his machine. He's going to drop outside of the top 10 and restart back outside of the top 20 as the pace truck will make the left-hand turn once again. We'll get ready to turn him loose once more. They're in the hands of Christopher Pfeffer, who's early up through the gears, and he's going to have a nice gap before they even get back to the start-finish line.
He's going to have a huge gap before they get to the start-finish line. Hogan's going to be able to jump into the second place. Now the battle is on for third between Tucker and Phillip. Oh, Dobbs in the wall. The 22 of Dobbs is in the wall hard.
And you saw everybody scattering on the back straightaway to give him room. He's up in the wall again over there into turn 3. Lot of contact to the right side. He's got some damage actually around that right front too with that second shot in turn 3.
A lot of action going on the track. There was some heavy contact, almost an instant off the corner between, it looked like Villalobos and the number, and Delaney. It looked like very heavy contact off the corner last time by. A lot of heavy battles going on the racetrack.
Be around the 10th, 11th position. That battling going on there. Brandon Andrews in the vicinity. Richard Clement there also. Double wide around 14th, 15th as the top 10, almost the top 12 have gotten themselves to single file formation. Kenny Brady trying to fight his way up through the field. Kevin Roy in the 89 just ahead of Alan Dobbs, who appears to have recovered after his hit into the wall. Almost made some contact there with Clement in the 4. These guys, they're almost rubbing doors back here outside the top 15.
Yeah, some very heavy battling right now, and the 25's even peeking to the bottom, maybe to go 3 wide into 3 and 4, thinks better of it. Some very heavy battling right now here around Andrew Navarro. Oh, and there's contact off the corner. They're 3 wide, and Dobbs spinning into the grass.
Dobbs was really loose off of 4, hangs on to it as he spun right in front of that 3 wide situation. No caution, we stay green as that car, or that truck, never went fully around.
Hate to see it. Alan Dobbs has shown a lot of speed through practice and qualifying, and he just seems to be really struggling here early on.
Like Andrew Navarro, that damage that he sustained from the incident with Him and Patrick Stein, that's really hurting him. He hasn't made up much progress. 17th is where he currently runs, is further up towards the front. Got a battle brewing potentially for second place. Agnell Phillip has his nose right to the bumper of Boyd Hogan, who gaps a little bit here through 1 and 2, but it really looks like that 96 is good on entry, the 94 really good on exit.
Just to update you on Tanner Love, he was sitting on pit road for a little bit there. I think he might be trying to get his connection fixed, actually, in that machine. You hate to see it. He had a lot of speed in practice and qualifying. He started in the top 5, I think, for tonight's race, and he's already a couple laps down.
And less than 15 laps into this race, looks like Richard Malugani may be out of this one, may have already gone back to the garage area. We'll follow up on that. You know, going back to the Alan Dobbs situation, you talked about him being so fast in practice, had himself a good qualifying effort up inside the top 10 and 7th. He also had good momentum coming into this race as well, up inside the playoffs right now, sitting in the 6th position, and he had a top 3 run last week at Circuit of the Americas, finished 3rd place behind Boyd Hogan and Christopher Peppers, so it certainly looked like everything was trending in the right direction for him here tonight, but early issues, and now he's going to have to try and recover for the remainder of this race. Still on the lead lap, but all the way back. Last car on the lead lap in the 23rd position.
Still early on in this race. He can come back from this, and especially at a track like Richmond, it tends to go on long green flag runs, but this is one of those tracks where cautions breed cautions because it is still a short track. You're getting everybody back up, and you're going to get a couple of caution flags.
As we look at our battle for the 4th position, Casey Tucker trying to keep Nathan Jurgensen at bay. Let's take a look at our weather conditions here today. A little bit under 70 degrees for the ambient temperature. Track temp continuing to climb. Right now it's 74 degrees. So not exactly what you would think would make the track super slippery, but we're seeing a lot of drivers having some issues off the corner in the early going. Stein getting loose. Dobbs getting loose there off of 2 and then up into the wall in turn 3. Is that maybe just part of the setup for these trucks, or does the track conditions come into play?
Track conditions always come into play a bit, especially at a track like this where you're just constantly going round and round. Track like maybe like a road course, it's not going to affect you as much, but a track like Richmond where you're just reliant on grip the whole time, it's really going to play into it.
Battle for 8th, three-way battle as a matter of fact. Jonathan Delaney making the pass on our Daytona winner TJ Crampton. Christopher Hill right there as well in the 99 as he'll look to take the 9th position away from the 61. Looks like Delaney's going to leave that battle and keep that 8th position for the time being. So Crampton starting to free fall towards the tail end of the top 10 as the 99 begins to move his way closer to the front.
Here comes Christopher Hill as the caution is out on the speedway.
45.
Lap number 19. The 45 is around Villalobos.
And he was in a good battle just moments ago with Andrew Navarro and Brandon Andrews around the 14th position. So you have to wonder if maybe some contact was exchanged, or is it still a classic case of what we've seen in the early going of a truck getting loose off of turn 2? We'll go back and look.
And we'll go back and look on the incident there. You hate to see it. Villalobos had a lot of speed and was beginning to fall back a little bit there, but was still mired up near the front of the pack, front of the field.
That thing just stepped out on him. He was in trouble before he even got to the exit of turn number 2.
Yeah, the 45. Good job locking it down and keeping it out of the inside wall, though.
Talked about the fact that you need the speed on the straightaway, but it's all about finesse in the corners, and one of those things you have to be aware of is when you can get back to the throttle if those rear tires are going to take. In that case, those Goodyears were not ready. A lot of wheel spin, no grip there, and when he mashed down the throttle, thing just pointed to the left and kept on going. But to your point, good job of getting on the brakes, avoiding hitting the inside wall, keep that truck in one piece, and he was up there inside of the top 15, as we mentioned, so he's got a fast truck here tonight. Plenty of time to recover and try and get himself back up there. As we got a couple of drivers making some pit stops, but it looks like it's drivers coming down for some more repairs or drivers that were running towards the tail end of the field. Nobody up at the front wants to give up track position.
Track position is going to be a big part of this race. It's going to be a big key in this race. It's so hard to complete passes at Richmond. When you get on the longer run and the tires begin to separate and you have your drivers that are quicker on the longer runs, then you can make some passes if you're stronger on the longer runs. But if you're even with the guy or just a little bit quicker than a guy, it's just so hard to complete that pass here.
Looks like Tanner Love is going to get the lucky dog under this caution. He will get one of his 3 laps back, so he'll be -2. Alan Dobbs is going to lose a lap at least here under this caution period, so he will be at least 1 down when we go back green. We had Villalobos as well as Patrick Stein, Andrew Navarro on pit lane. Those were the only drivers on pit road. You talk about it being so difficult to pass, but how about a couple of drivers that have done a pretty good job here, only 20 laps in of working their way up towards the front of the field. Jonathan Delaney started back in 17th. Christopher Hill started back in 18th. They're up inside of the top 10 in 8th and 9th. They've both gained 9 spots since we dropped the green flag to start this thing.
Yeah, impressive work by those drivers, able to move their way through the field. Still early on in this race, and we'll have to see how they're able to handle the rest of this race, and see if they can continue to move up and maybe get up there and compete for the victory possibly tonight at Richmond.
So we mentioned that last week these drivers were at their first road course stop of the season, Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Boyd Hogan won the stage and the race, his second win on the season. Christopher Pfeffer was second, Alan Dobbs third, TJ Crampton and Braxton Deweese completed the top 5. Subsequently coming into this race, Boyd Hogan is your points leader, Crampton in second. Jamie Knopf right now the highest in the points without a victory in third, Christopher Hill fourth, John Theodore currently in fifth. And then the rest of the drivers right now that would be in playoff position should the season have ended last week would have been Alan Dobbs, Andrew Navarro, Christopher Pfeffer, Brandon Andrews, and Daniel Simmons. We definitely keep our eyes on that red line, that cutoff line between 10th and 11th, because coming into tonight, it's the battle of Daniel Simmons versus Kevin Roy. Only 1 point between those two for that 10th and final position in the playoffs at this point in time.
We're going to be talking playoffs all season long, Seth, as the pace truck pulls down pit road once again, and the green flag is out for Pfeffer after caution number 2. A great restart, and he's able to jump right up in front of Hogan. Hogan's going to drop down right in front of Phillip.
Battle's going to be for third. Agnell Phillip on the inside, top side, the 82 of Casey Tucker. Behind them, you got John Theodore and Nathan Jurgensen. They're going to battle for the final spot inside of the top 5. Looks like Phillip getting back to the throttle. Ooh, I thought he might clear Tucker for that third spot, but nope, they still stay side by side for that final spot in the podium.
Yeah, good battle right now here for the third position between Phillip and Tucker. Tucker not giving it up, fighting hard on that high side.
You have to wonder if there might actually be enough rubber laid down later on in this race for that second group to be an option to make a pass for position, at least for the moment. The 82 holding tough with the 94, who lost a little bit of ground there off of 2 and is going to have to give up the spot. Now the battle is going to be for 5th spot. Jurgensen still on the inside of the 27 of John Theodore, and as these guys continue to battle, here comes Delaney to make it a 3-man fight.
Yeah, Delaney has entered the conversation for the battle for the 6th spot between Jurgensen and Theodore. I mean, the 5th spot between Jurgensen and Theodore. And Jurgensen's going to come up in front of Theodore, and Theodore's going to cross over and try to go to the inside of Jurgensen. It's not going to be able to stick for him. And Jurgensen's going to take the spot. And here comes Delaney, who gets a little into the wall, it looked like there, but he's going to stick tough on the high side.
Little tap to the outside wall, no harm, no foul. Maybe lost a tiny bit of momentum there on the front straightaway, as he will still stay even with John Theodore. So that 12 truck really good, whether he's on the inside or the outside. Can he complete this pass? Christopher Hill waiting to see which lane's going to open up. And as all this is going on, Christopher Pfeffer may get his first challenge of the day. Boyd Hogan is there. He wants the lead. He's to the inside.
Here comes Boyd Hogan in the number 96, looking to possibly get his 3rd victory of the season today, coming off his victory at Coda last week. Can he complete the pass on Pfeffer and take the race lead here at Richmond as we're on lap number 31 of 200?
As we talk about it, it's not a win and you're in type of playoffs. It's whoever's the top 10 in the point standings by the end of the regular season. So while wins are rewarded, consistency is rewarded just as much. Pfeffer, though, has a 0 in the win column. He'd like to change that, but he's going to have to hold off the multi-time winner Boyd Hogan, who looks like for the time being has decided to back off. And another thing that we haven't talked about that is very prevalent here with a track like Richmond, we talk about tires, but how about tire temps? You want to have the coolest temperatures possible to have the optimal grip to be able to make passes for position.
We've already talked about it so much. We're going to continue to talk about it throughout the race. Tires are just the most important thing at a track like Richmond. Whether you're talking about the wear or the temperature or whatever you're talking about when it comes to these tires, it's just the most important thing on these race trucks. And making passes is the key because it's just so hard to do it at Richmond.
Christopher Hill, John Theodore, 2-point separation for the fourth position rather in the point stands. Right now they are battling side by side for 7th. Hill on the inside in the 99, Theodore on the top side behind them, 48 of Jamie Knopf. Talked about consistency. We mentioned he is the highest in the point standings without a victory, 3rd, and he's side by side right now with, I believe that's the 54 of Kenny Brady.
Kenny Brady, he has entered the top 10 for the first time today after starting 25th. He's up to the 9th spot. How many more spots can he make up? He has shown a lot of speed here early.
We mentioned about the fact a lot of these guys starting towards the rear of the field. I have to wonder, we know that this is a place that road to pro drivers utilize to be able to kind of get some laps in, be able to figure out what they might have to do in the road to pro races. Would some of these guys, like a Kenny Brady, like a Christopher Hill, be purposely starting at the back in this race so that way they actually get the experience of passing trucks and seeing how quickly they can get up to the top 10, top 5, and maybe eventually front of the field?
You would think so, Seth. A lot of these drivers, their primary focus is the road to pro and not necessarily the series. Their focus is to prepare for the road to pro, and that's what a driver like Kenny Brady, I think, is doing. He's really preparing for the race and seeing what his truck can do in traffic.
Started all the way back in the 15th position, currently now in 9th, so up 6 spots from where he started. Right now, Jonathan Delaney has picked up the most spots since the start, up 12 from his 17th starting position up to 5th, and he wants more. He's only about a truck length and a half off the back bumper of 4th place Casey Tucker, and he's bringing Jurgensen and Hill along with him.
Yeah, Delaney has been flexing his muscles on this run. He's looking to get another spot, trying to get up into the 4th spot. He sent it into turns 1 and 2 and really made it stick. He's right there, right behind Casey Tucker, looking to move into that 4th position.
Riding on board with Jonathan Delaney, that 12 truck, and one thing I'm noticing, not a whole lot of wheel motion there with the steering wheel. A little bit of counter steer as he enters into the corner and maybe through the center of the corner, but that looks pretty smooth at a short track.
Yeah, pretty smooth line for a short track for sure. Delaney continues to just heckle the number 82 of Tucker. He's just right there, right behind him.
Rick Webb into the wall there on the back straightaway. Sorry to cut you off. Made some contact with Villalobos as they were in a side-by-side battle for the 18th position. No caution as Webb keeps it going in the right direction, but we nearly ended up having our second caution of the evening.
Another close call in this race. A very hard-fought race so far. Almost had caution number 3 right there, but we continue on as we've just passed lap number 40 here of a 200-lap event.
Braxton Deweese making the pass there on Jamie Knopf for 10th place. Yeah, you'd be correct. Actually, it would be the 3rd caution of the night if that yellow had flown. And an interesting thing that I was looking at when they were putting down the race information for today was just be aware this is our first short track race. Make sure that you don't make any enemies. And that's actually really good advice because on the schedule, it's back-to-back short track races. You make an enemy here today, you may have to deal with that driver next week when we head to the paperclip short track of Martinsville.
Not to mention the week after that, we go to Bristol, Seth.
The trifecta of short tracks, my goodness.
And there was some heavy contact off the corner. Almost had another caution. Theodore and Kenny Brady made heavy contact off of the corner of 3 and 4 that last time by. They were able to continue on for now. But Kenny
Brady's dropping.
Kenny Brady is dropping down to pit road, it looks like, in the number 54.
This would obviously, I would assume, be an unscheduled pit stop for Kenny Brady. We'll follow up on that as He's going to fall at least a lap down, maybe two. It doesn't take very long for drivers, even if your tires are, like in the case of our race leader, almost 50 laps old, you're still turning about 22.5-second lap time, so you are going to lose a number of laps when you pit under green flag conditions.
And it looks like Kenny Brady has exited the event, actually. Kenny Brady is gone from the event, so he will hopefully see him in our next event.
See if we can get a replay of what happened there with Kenny Brady to end his evening. This was off of turn number 4 between himself and John Theodore. This was, I believe, for the 8th position, and looks like maybe a little side draft gone wrong. Almost looks like some gap whack came into play there, because it looked like there was space between the 54 and the 27, and next thing you know, the two of them are hooked together. As we stay under the green flag, Pfeffer continuing to show the way. He's about to deal with lap traffic, well, actually slower traffic, not lap traffic. That's Rick Webb in the 3, who right now is the last car on the lead lap in 21st position. And as he's starting to reel him in, I was also noticing that the gap between himself and Boyd Hogan has widened. We saw Hogan make a challenge on the 66 about 15-20 laps ago. Now it's nearly 4 or 5 truck lengths back to the 96, and I wonder if this is a case of maybe Pfeffer has a better long-run truck than Hogan does, or if Hogan might just be in ride mode for the moment, kind of biding his time, preserving those good years, and maybe picking another moment to maybe make a charge for that race lead, maybe here as they start to deal with traffic.
And drivers are beginning to deal with traffic up here at the front of the field. And things are going to get interesting here, Seth.
It almost makes me wonder, too. Remember back in the beginning stages of this race where we saw top 10, top 15, they all got themselves. Oh, we got a spinner on the back straightaway. No caution. It's the 45 of Villalobos again. No yellow flag going to fly, and that was only about a corner ahead of the race leader.
Yeah, very close call there, and Villalobos actually drives past pit lane there, the number 45 machine, but spun right off the racetrack in the 45, the reason for the no caution.
Had a couple of near misses here this evening with incidents not bringing out the yellow flag as Pfeffer continues to cut his way through traffic. He's gotten around Patrick Stein and Richard Clement, so now 17 trucks on the lead lap at this point in time. Andrew Navarro in the 42 coming down pit lane. Been on pit road several times after being involved in the first caution of the evening. This looks like a scheduled stop for him as he is going to take on some tires. But go back to the point I was going to make before the 45 had his problems. We saw them double wide and 3 wide back around the 15th to 20th position. I think a big reason for that was what we're seeing now. They were thinking if this race went into a long green flag run, they did not want to be at the tail end of the field and be in danger of being one of those first drivers put -1 to the race leader.
Yeah, it's the last thing you want because I've mentioned it multiple times. Richmond's one of those tracks where you have these long green flag runs. You can potentially get a caution, and cautions breed cautions. But
and another one,
well,
Daniel Simmons in the 46, who we mentioned was just outside of a playoff position coming into tonight. He loops it around off of turn number 2.
Well, there goes my idea right out the window there, Seth.
He did manage to stay on the lead lap, so good job by Simmons to realize the situation and refire the truck before race leader Christopher Pfeffer came around. That will also put a smile on Richard Clement's face because he'll get the lucky dog under this yellow. I get the feeling as well, Kyle, that we're going to see this more often here as well as we get longer into green flag runs, because talk about that loose sensation trying to get back to the throttle off of turn 2. As the tires on the back end of the car continue to wear down, it's just going to get worse. Actually, Daniel Simmons was fighting that truck all the way from turn 1. He was almost in a drift all the way through 1 and 2.
Yeah, Novak was making hit. I mean, not Novak. I'm seeing Novak's name here in the chat, but he was really, Simmons there was really trying to test out for Nitro Circus there.
My goodness, that thing was all out of shape when he entered into turn 1. Does a nice job of backing it down, did not hit the inside wall, but I think these drivers aren't doing work in the truck. We're going to go inside the cockpit of the 46 and give you an idea of just how much work he was doing trying to keep that thing from going around.
Yeah, the 46 there of Simmons was really wheeling and dealing that 46, trying to save that machine. Looked like he had the hands of Ken Block in there.
Boy, just barely gets that thing turned back to the right as it was headed for the inside wall. Gets on the brakes, does not hit the inside wall, and had to back up onto the racing surface to get that thing turned around. That's what brought out the caution as we had some oncoming traffic entering the city, including the race leader Christopher Pfeffer. So caution flies for the third time here this evening. And interestingly enough, race leaders continue to stay out. So what are we thinking here that these Top Guns are thinking about for when they would elect to come down pit road and take on a set of tires? Do they have a number in their head?
These drivers are just trying to possibly stay on track as long as they can and possibly have those tires for what I was talking about, how cautions do breed cautions at a track like Richmond. If we get a bunch of cautions at the end of this race, Richmond eats up tires very quickly. Just having a lap or two fresher tires really makes a difference at Richmond.
Definitely does. You kind of look at the lap times we saw at the end of that run. I think our race leader Pfeffer ran a 22.5. Compare that to the fastest lap that he's run here tonight at 21.7. So obviously a huge amount to be gained when you have fresh tires, the older tires around you. But it looks like the top 13 all elected to stay out, including, interestingly enough, the driver that brought out this caution, Daniel Simmons. Even though he had that spin, he did not come down pit road. A couple of drivers did come down pit lane, including the 31 of Nathan Jurgensen, and he was running up inside of the top 5. So keep an eye on that bright yellow 31 on this next restart. We'll see how quickly he can cut his way through the field with those fresh Goodyears.
Yeah, Jurgensen's shown a lot of speed here early on in the race. I expect him to cut right through the field very, very quickly in that yellow number 31. I expect him to be up here battling for the lead here in a couple of laps.
He was the only driver in practice earlier on tonight that ran triple-digit laps, 121 laps to be exact. So you have to assume that he was testing the truck on the long run and the short run. He'll be restarting back in the 15th position. We'll have 21 trucks taking the green here when we go back with 140 laps remaining. There's going to be 16 of them on the lead lap. 4 drivers look like they will officially be ending the evening early. Tanner Love, Andrew Navarro, Kenny Brady, and Richard Malugani are all back in the garage area. So Christopher Pfeffer, who is going to have 60-lap old tires, will lead Boyd Hogan back to the start-finish line. Agno Phillip, Casey Tucker, and Jonathan Delaney. That's your top 5 as we get ready to go back green flag racing. Saw a little wheel spin there out of our race leader in the 66.
And that was what I was really going to be watching for on this restart was the wheel spin. These are very old tires, and a great job from Pfeffer, able to keep it straight, and everybody really up here to keep it straight on that restart.
Especially off of turn 2, which has proven to be so far here tonight the trouble spot for drivers getting loose off that second corner. Top 3 will get themselves single file. Agno Phillip and Christopher Hill, they will battle for the 4th position as Boyd Hogan little bit higher there through 1 and 2. Don't know if he slipped up or if he was trying to get a better exit off of 2.
Hogan might be trying to set up his teammate here and try to complete that pass and get up there and take the race lead for the first time today in that number 96. But Pfeffer's just been so dominant here in the early goings.
Braxton Deweese back here in the 8, right now in the 7th position. Trying to figure out what's going to happen ahead of him. The 3-way battle for 4th. Hill, Phillip, and Delaney. Delaney, whoa, that's awfully high for that 12 truck. I don't think that was on purpose. I don't know if you want to go that high up in the corner at Richmond.
You got a fantastic run down the front straightaway there, Seth, though. You had a huge run off the corner from going that high.
A big reason why you got to be careful going up that high is there's marbles up there, and when there's marbles, there's not a whole lot of grip, but he's going to go up there again, straddling those high white hash marks with the right side. So to your point, he gets tremendous straightaway speed as a result. And bear in mind, This is a guy making moves like this with 65-lap-old tires. You would maybe expect somebody with fresh tires to do this, but no. He's got just as old tires as everybody else around him, and he made it work. He makes the pass up into the top 5, getting around the 94 of Phillip.
Some very impressive driving from Jonathan Delaney. Some very impressive driving indeed here.
Drop back and see about that 31 of Nathan Jurgensen, and it looks like something might be amiss on that truck because he is currently running 11 and a half seconds behind the leader. I can't tell, but it almost looks like that truck, is he down a cylinder? It looks like he may be down some power. Caution's out.
Caution is out on the speedway once again. Caution number 4 of the day.
I saw some smoke off of turn number 2. I wonder if maybe Jurgensen might have had an issue and that's why he was so far back. I'm not certain. See if we can find out what brought this yellow flag out.
I'm not sure what happened with Jurgensen's race truck. I keep on looking back, and it just kind of seems like he's like almost like down a cylinder set. I haven't really seen him hit anything.
Actually, I might have a theory. Let me just double check on something here. Yes, this is the stage caution. And so that makes me think that maybe, just maybe, Jurgensen was backing off on purpose to make sure he didn't wear those tires down. So when everybody comes down pit road, he's not at a tire disadvantage when he inherits the race lead.
That's a very good point, Seth. That's a very smart move from Jurgensen if that is the case. That way he can get that track position, and he didn't really use up his tires at all.
How about Christopher Pfeffer? This is, I believe, going to be, this is his first stage win of the season after capturing the pole, so well done to him. He'll be able to utilize that playoff point if he makes it into the postseason to battle for the championship. Top 10 finishers there at the completion of lap 66 will also be getting stage points here today. And there you see the 31 of Nathan Jurgensen staying out when everybody else came to pit lane. The other driver that had come down pit road the same lap as Jurgensen was Brandon Andrews, but Brandon Andrews actually came down pit road with the rest of the field and did a fuel-only stop. It looks like he did win the battle off pit road, though, and still will restart in the second position.
And I've seen that strategy that Brandon Andrews is doing work before. If we get a bunch of cautions at the end of this race, some of these drivers aren't going to have tires anymore. While Brandon Andrews might have a set, if not 2, of tires, and he'll be able to put those on and maybe fly past the field, really depending on how the runs work out.
We're going to have to see who the lucky dog is or was under this caution. It might have possibly been the 22 of Alan Dobbs, because it looks like 3 of Rick Webb and the 98 of Patrick Stein, they're going to take the wave around since they were behind then race leader Pfeffer, but ahead of new race leader Jurgensen. So they'll get the wave around, and that will put 19 trucks back on the lead lap when we go back green.
Good for those 2 drivers to get back onto the lead lap after their incidents earlier, that being Rick Webb and Patrick Stein. They'll be back on lead lap, and we'll have to see how Jurgensen does here in the race lead. We haven't seen someone other than Pfeffer up here battling for the race lead.
Well, not certain what the strategy was for Brandon Andrews, because he came back down pit road yet again. Looks like this time he may have taken on right side tires, so unorthodox strategy to say the least for the driver of the 24. He'll now restart back in 17th place. So as we re-rack them here, wait for the lights to go out atop the pace truck, the wave around trucks to go around. It'll be Jurgensen the leader, Pfeffer in second, Hogan will be third, Casey Tucker and Christopher Hill going to complete the top 5, Delaney in sixth, Agno Phillip in seventh, then Braxton Deweese, TJ Crampton, and Jamie Knopf. That will be the top 10 as they double up behind the pace truck. We've gotten the 1 to green signal, getting close to halfway here tonight in the Reaper Speedlab 200.
And close to halfway here at Richmond Raceway, and Jurgensen's going to lead him down to the green flag here after caution number 4, and we're going to see how these drivers handle it see if they maybe single file out again, or do we see them get more aggressive?
I want to remind you all that next week, these drivers will be at Martinsville. We will not be holding the coverage of that, but the following week they will be at the world's fastest half mile of Bristol, April 13th. So I hope you join us for that as we're back underway, and we might be going 3 wide into turn 1.
And Hogan sent it going into turns 1 and 2. The driver with the number 96, which pushes Pfeffer all the way up against the wall almost. And they're going to be 3 wide still going into 3 and 4.
I don't think that Pfeffer expected to be told you're up top 3 wide there through 1 and 2. He's going to cross from high to low. How about 3 wide again?
Pfeffer all the way to the bottom. Hogan's not going to let it happen. Comes down in front of his teammate Pfeffer, and he continues to battle the number 31 of Jurgensen for the race lead.
Boyd Hogan has about 10 to 12 lap fresher tires. We had some smoke there off of turn 4. No caution waving, however. We're still green. So we had some kind of an incident take place there. As it's going to be the battle for second place now. Pfeffer to the inside of Nathan Jurgensen for the runner-up spot. That's going to be our 3rd lead change of the evening, with Hogan now out in P1.
Hogan looking to create some separation on the field as Pfeffer challenges Jurgensen for that 2nd position. He will take the spot going into turns 1 and 2. It's a legacy 1-2. Can they make it a 1-2-3 with Christopher Hill closing in?
Hill right there as he's under fire from Casey Tucker. Tucker slipped up. That opens the door for Agnew Phillip to try and challenge for the 5th position. He's going to have to tuck back in line. Delaney going to try that top side. We've seen him make passes up there on the high line a couple of times here this evening. He's trying to do it again.
Delaney making it work, making it stick up there on the higher lane as he's trying to complete the pass on Agnew Phillip. And he will do it here off turns 3 and 4. And Hill's going to try to send it in on Jurgensen in turns 1 and 2.
Take advantage with those fresh tires as he stays alongside down the back straightaway. Meanwhile, the top 2 are gone, about 6 truck lengths back to the battle for the 3rd spot. We're going to have to keep an eye on that battle for the race lead as well, because if there's any indication from the first run to the run we're on now, it seems like Pfeffer may have a tick better long run truck than Boyd Hogan. So we'll see if that gap closes up. Right now it's about 0.3 of a second between 1st and 2nd. That battle for 3rd still hot and heavy. Hill finally going to complete the pass, and now it's Casey Tucker to the inside. Right now, that 31 getting freight trained on the top.
Legacy Esports looking awfully strong early. They have Hogan, Pfeffer, and Hill 1, 2, 3, and now Casey Tucker looking to make it a 1, 2, 3, 4 for Legacy Esports. The 5th member of the race team, Tanner Love, had exited the race early.
Hogan, a 2-time winner. Hill with a victory this season. Pfeffer and Tucker both looking for their first wins on the season, but now indeed into the clutches of Jonathan Delaney for 5th position. Outside of this battle of everybody trying to take advantage of the old tires on Jurgensen, everybody else has gotten themselves pretty well singled filed, so it looks like we might be settling in for another long green flag run here at Richmond.
It looks like that's a big possibility that we might be settling in for another long green flag run. And we're seeing it right here with Jurgensen. Jurgensen saved those tires for just those couple of laps. We were on the racetrack. He completely slowed down his race truck a bunch. So his tires really shouldn't have been worn at all, but you just see how much of a difference it makes just a few laps on on tires.
It's interesting, too, that, you know, we've talked about this the last couple of weeks. There's a number of drivers that run part-time here in the series, and you're looking at 2 of them, Agnew Phillip in the 94 and Jurgensen in the 31. So no surprise that a driver that's in it just for the trophy hunting rather than the points, like Jurgensen, would try a strategy a little bit outside the box of everybody else and see if it works.
It's a good time to try the strategy. You're not necessarily competing for points. And like I said, a lot of these drivers are here mainly for Road to Pro, so they can practice for Road to Pro. And that's what Jurgensen could have possibly also been doing in that situation, seeing how he could handle that situation, how his race truck and his tires would handle that situation.
Knock, knock, Mr. Boyd Hogan. Christopher Pfeffer is there. He is on the back bumper looking to get the race lead back. And you got to think that this 66 is hungry. Christopher Pfeffer, last week coming up runner-up to Boyd Hogan at Circuit of the Americas. So close to getting that checkered flag. Last thing he wants to do is finish runner-up in back-to-back weeks, especially with the fact that he's trying to get the max points here today. Won the stage, would like to complete the sweep with a race win.
Pfeffer was really working that truck off 3 and 4. He got a little loose, and I was watching his in-car, and I think he has like yellow gloves on or something, because I was able to see his hands easily, and he was going back and forth with the wheel, really working that wheel, trying to get up there to his teammate Boyd Hogan.
Some traffic to deal with up ahead there, and there you see what you're talking about, that working the wheel loose off of turn number 4, trying to get back to the throttle a little bit sooner than the back end was ready for. They're going to get around, that's the 45 of Villa Lobos, who right now is 2 laps down in the 20th position. Effort continuing to try to close in, and actually, as I'm looking at the lap times, fastest truck on the racetrack right now is that 99 of Christopher Hill. He's about to close in on the 66 for the runner-up spot.
Here comes Christopher Hill, driver of the number 99 machine. He's looking to put a little bit of pressure on the driver of the number 66, Pfeffer. It's the highest up. Hill has been all day in the 3rd position.
20 drivers still in this race. Another driver went to the garage area a couple of laps ago. That's Corey Hassler in the 25, so he will finish 21st here this evening in the Reaper Speedlab 200 as we continue to watch the battle closing up for the runner-up spot. Then a ways back to Casey Tucker. He's got about 2 truck lengths back to a brewing 5th place battle between Jonathan Delaney and Agnell Phillip.
Agnell Phillip has been hanging around that 5th spot most of the day, and then Delaney started just outside the top 10 and has driven up to 5th and has kind of stalled out in that 5th position.
Driver that ran into issues early on in this race, still on the lead lap in the 14th position, Alan Dobbs, so I don't think we've heard the last of him, and Daniel Simmons right there as well. In the 46, had that spin off of turn 2, stayed on the lead lap. He's in the 12th position. If we look at him and Kevin Roy, 1 point separation between those two for the final position inside the top 10 in the points. Well, guess where they're running? 1 position apart. 12th place for Simmons, Kevin Roy right now in 13th.
I feel like that's going to be a battle we're going to be talking about for the remainder of the season, Seth, up until we start the playoffs.
How about Braxton Deweese? Really struggled at the beginning of the season. Kind of seemed like he couldn't get any traction. I think it was, 3 races in. He was still outside of the top 20 in the points. Really has turned it around the last couple of weeks. Had a top 5 run last week at Circuit of the Americas. He's 12th in the point standings now. Only 7 points out of a playoff position and having another solid outing here tonight. Currently trying to reel in Nathan Jurgensen for 7th.
Braxton Deweese having a strong run in the number 8 machine, looking strong out there. Let's see what he can do. Let's see if he has a long run machine, because it seems like we possibly could be heading for a long run here, depending if we could stay green.
And just a couple of trucks back, you've got 10th place running Jamie Knopf in the 48. Now, Jamie Knopf hasn't had numbers that really jump out at you, but he sits 3rd in the point standings because he, in the 5 starts he's made, is finishing the top 10 3 of those times. Consistently up there, if not inside the top 10, just outside of the top 10. He's racked up a couple of stage points as well, so talked about it. Got to be in the top 10 the points with consistent runs. He's fitting the bill right now, and again, looking for another top 10 run here this evening.
Yeah, Jamie Knopf, I don't think I've mentioned him too much throughout the season because he's very quiet and just keeps his truck out of trouble, and that's why he's been able to snag some of these decent finishes. He's had top 15, top 10 speed throughout the season, and has just been able to continue those runs and keep clean.
There's our Daytona winner just ahead of him, 9th place running TJ Crampton. Crampton came into this race 20 points behind Boyd Hogan for the current overall points lead. Crampton did indeed get some stage points here this evening, but Boyd Hogan finishing up inside of the top 5 got more points. So right now as things stand, especially with Hogan leading this race, looks like the points gap could increase from now heading into Martinsville next week as some more traffic for Boyd Hogan have to deal with. That was Patrick Stein moments ago that he had to pass in the 98. more importantly, he's now almost opened up a full second back to Christopher Pfeffer, so I almost wonder if Pfeffer might have used up a little bit too much in his attempt to stay in touch with his teammate.
Yeah, Pfeffer was pushing that truck very, very hard when he was behind Hogan, really trying to take over that top spot. And yeah, you mentioned it, Seth, and I think that's a very big possibility that he had used up those tires early on in this run trying to get past Hogan.
Hogan now going to make the pass on Rick Webb. That's going to put Webb first truck one lap down. Remember that Stein and Webb took the wave around under the stage caution, so they've got about 20 lap older tires than the race leaders, and they were hoping for a quick caution. They did not get it, and subsequently they are now going to be -1 to the race leader. Another truck up ahead, I believe that might be the 4 of Richard Clement, who was already a lap down, so this would put him a second lap down to the race leaders. Next driver that Boyd Hogan would catch up to on the lead lap that he would put a lap down is about 6 seconds ahead, and that is 16th place running Brandon Andrews in the 24.
And once he gets to Brandon Andrews, there's a couple of drivers in front of him. So if he's able to get up there and get to him, he might face some lap traffic, and we'll have to see what happens at that point. Maybe if Pfeffer and Hill can catch back up to Hogan.
Just kind of get the feeling that it's only a moment of time before we might see another caution come out. We had a long green flag run in the first half of this race. It ended with a truck spinning off of turn number 2. That's kind of been the main area where our cautions have happened here this evening, with drivers on the older tires just not finding that rear grip off the corner. And I feel that we may end up seeing something like that happen again here. That's going to really, I think, be in the back of these race leaders' minds as to whether or not to start planning for green flag pit stops from now to the checkered flag, or just kind of bide your time and wait for that yellow flag to fly.
Yeah, I feel like that's our most likely caution scenario, a possible self-spin off of 2, or maybe even potentially a lead lap car making contact with the lap car. That is always a possibility as well, and we'll have to see what happens. And maybe when we get down in the pit window, there seems to be a lot of cautions that come out in the middle of the pit window because of the differences in tires. So we'll have to watch out for that if we end up getting to green flag pit stops.
Boyd Hogan continuing to show the way in the 96. He's looking for his 3rd victory on the season. He won last week at Circuit of the Americas. His first win this season was at Las Vegas, so he would be not only the first driver to 3 victories, but would have all 3 victories at 3 different configurations: a 1.5 mile, a road course, and a 3/4 mile racetrack here tonight. So kind of showing off the jack of all trades. Doesn't matter what type of racetrack you put him on, he's going to bring a fast truck to every venue.
He always seems to bring in a fast truck, Boyd Hogan. That's why he is the points leader. 2 wins in the last three races for Boyd Hogan, and he's looking to snag a 3rd one here tonight.
Battle brewing potentially for the 9th position. Slowly, Jamie Knopf's interval to TJ Crampton has been chipping away, and now they've got less than a truck length separating them. A lot of traffic to deal with up ahead with as well. Clement there, Rick Webb there, as well as Nathan Jurgensen, who's still trying to nurse around those old tires. Yeah, if we end up getting into a long enough green flag pit stop or green flag run where drivers will have to start thinking about pit stops, the guy that's going to throw down the gauntlet would obviously have to be Jurgensen. He'd be one of those first to pit road.
Yeah, I would definitely expect a driver like Jurgensen to come down pit road first out of the drivers that would make these green flag pit stops. I would expect him to come down first just to try to maybe get that track position back in that 31 machine.
We don't know exactly what the fuel window is for these drivers, but looking even right now at our race leader, Boyd Hogan, he is running nearly a full second slower on 40-lap old tires than he did at the beginning of the race. So if you're somebody back there, even not even Jurgensen, but like a Braxton Deweese, a TJ Crampton, a Jamie Knopf, and you know that right now, the interval between you and the race leader, you're not going to be able to make that up being on an equal footing. when that fuel window opens, would you be one of those first to pit road, try and take advantage of those fresh tires, take advantage of that outlap, and try and close up the gap, if not for the race lead, then for maybe a couple of positions just ahead of you, move up from maybe 6th up to 4th or from 9th up to 6th?
You see, Seth, the way this race has gone, I would probably go the opposite way on that strategy there. And I would probably wait out and just wait it out and see if a caution flag would come out while I'm possibly in the race lead on those old tires and get that track position.
Saw Brandon Andrews about to get lapped, and he then came to pit road. So we'll see if this is a scheduled stop for him or not. He is getting service in his stall as we speak. Knopf did make the pass on TJ Crampton, so move him into 9th place as up closer to the front. Casey Tucker, Jonathan Delaney, Agnell Phillip, they're in close proximity. One slip up could make a battle inside of the top 5. Andrews down and away, losing 2 laps to the race leader, Boyd Hogan.
Trying to make up time to Hogan, but Pfeffer continues to fall back. Hill continues to fall back as well. Last time by, Pfeffer was a little bit quicker than Hogan, but not by much.
Boyd Hogan has run the 3rd fastest lap of the evening with a 21.758. Christopher Pfeffer had the 2nd fastest with a 7.49, but fastest lap of the evening set by Agnell Phillip, running back in the 6th position, 21.723. And I'll tell you what, if we end up having a late race caution, keep an eye on that 94, because with that fast lap, that says to me he has a very good short run truck. I believe he only ran, as I mentioned, 3 laps in practice and was up 2nd on the board as a result. So obviously he is very good on fresh tires and on the short runs. So he'd be one of those drivers that wouldn't mind seeing a caution come out in the 10 to 15 to go vicinity, I feel.
Honestly, if we get a late caution here, anybody that's on the lead lap, I'm keeping an eye out for, because we've already seen it. We've already seen 3 wide on the restart, so why not see it again here at the end of the race? And at that point, drivers are going to get a lot more aggressive. There's going to be a lot less give and a lot more take at the end of the race, Seth.
Absolutely, as still 1, 2, 3, 4 for Legacy Esports, about a 2nd and 2/10 from Hogan back to Christopher Pfeffer. And then another 1.5 back to Christopher Hill. Then a little under a second, about 0.8 of a second from Hill back to Casey Tucker. Part-time driver Jonathan Delaney completing out the top 5. And Christopher Pfeffer in that 66, at least keeping in touch with Boyd Hogan. He's not in his back bumper like he was in the early stages of this run, but I almost wonder if he might be at a bit of an advantage right now, being within striking distance of the 96, because if Boyd Hogan decides to stay out and Christopher Pfeffer wants to leapfrog him, he would have the element of surprise. He could come to pit lane and Boyd Hogan wouldn't be able to get down there ahead of him. He'd already be past the commitment line. On the flip side, if Christopher Pfeffer wanted to stay out a lap or 2 extra, he'd be able to look ahead and see when Boyd Hogan heads for pit road. So right now, it just would seem on either side of the strategy spectrum, 66 would be in the catbird seat depending on which strategy he'd want to play.
Yeah, that tends to be the way it goes. I've noticed here on iRacing, Seth, the driver that stays out an extra lap or 2 tends to be quicker throughout the run. It also always depends on the driver itself. But the driver that usually comes in a lap or 2 after will have that speed on the longer run. So if Pfeffer would to do that, if he sees Hogan come down pit road, I would wait 1, if not 2 extra laps and drive on past him later on in the run, and also hope on no caution flags.
Just an update on Corey Hassler. I mentioned a while ago that he was out of the race, but he actually has come back into the server. He's back out on the racetrack, 26 laps down, but in the 21st position. So only 4 drivers back in the garage area. And obviously, with the short tracks and long green flag runs, with the rubber laid down and not enough time for the track to be able to cool, the track temp continues to climb. When we started this race, we were at 75 degrees for the track temperature. Let's see, 125 laps in, how much it has climbed. We've climbed up 7 degrees to 82 degrees. So these drivers were slipping and sliding around in the early stages of this race. They've certainly got their hands full now.
Yeah, these drivers definitely have their hands full. The hotter the track gets, the slicker it will be. And we mentioned it, the most likely way we'll get a caution is most likely a self spin off turn 2, if or possibly also turn 3 and 4. As we do have it right there, Villalobos is going to spin off the corner. I think he might have saved it in the 45, goes all the way down to the bottom, but hit the outside wall very hard in the 45 machine.
No caution to your point, as Villalobos going to bring it down pit lane. Boy, I'll bet a lot of drivers right there were wondering if they were going to be coming around and seeing the flagman waving the yellow, but that's not the case. Patrick Stein, the 98, coming down pit lane multiple laps down, and saw just a few moments ago Alan Dobbs get put a second lap down in the 22, as well as I believe the 16 of Matthew Van Gelder got put a lap down. Dobbs got put 2 laps down because 15 laps ago, I actually missed this, he came down pit road for a green flag pit stop. That's why he's able to take the fight at this point in time with race leader Boyd Hogan. So there's a driver trying a little bit of strategy.
Dobbs trying some strategy, maybe to snag back that track position. I think at this point, he is hoping that the whole pit window goes through.
Oh!
And Hogan, great save from Hogan, gets sideways behind the number 22 of Dobbs. But as I was saying with Dobbs, I think the goal here with him is try to get this track position and hope that he gets a perfectly timed caution so he can come down and take those tires.
It was hard to see there with that camera shot just behind Alan Dobbs whether or not the 96 of Boyd Hogan may have just barely kissed the wall. Certainly got out of shape, as we saw. Great save, but at the same time, though, while it's a great save, that really heated up his tires, and look at this. All of a sudden, the gap between himself and Christopher Pfeffer closed up from a full second to now a little less than half a second.
Yeah, Pfeffer is right there at this point. He can possibly make a move on him in the next couple of laps, really depending on lap traffic.
That's Kevin Roy, next car up ahead. 13th place, last truck on the lead lap. We'll see how he plays into this battle for the race lead. Seems like after Boyd Hogan has hit this wall of traffic, Pfeffer has gotten a lot better and has been able to reel in his teammate for the top position, with potentially the final pit stop of the day looming. Just had an exchange for 7th a couple of laps ago. Braxton Deweese moving up over Nathan Jurgensen, who continues to stay out there on now 75-lap-old tires. So, Jurgensen might give us a little bit of an idea of just how far these drivers can go when he dives onto pit lane, giving us an idea of a number, because came down pit road just before we had our stage caution, stayed out, inherited the race lead as a result, and that was about, I believe, 10 laps prior to the stage caution coming out. So we'll be able to kind of use him as a measuring stick of when these drivers have to pit, and there you go, right there, Nathan Jurgensen diving onto pit lane for what's probably going to be his final stop of the day.
Christopher Pfeffer just hit the wall very hard off turns 1 and 2, has some right side damage, trying to get around Kevin Roy in the number 89 machine and trying to get to Boyd Hogan. He got loose and got up into the wall in the number 66 machine. You see the right side damage on his machine.
And a big reason why we see drivers get loose off of turn number 2, it's a combination of a couple of things. We talk about the fact that the rear tires don't have the grip later on to a run, but another thing is too, as that right front tire heat builds up, the car does, or in this case the truck, does not want to turn off the corner. So you try to put more wheel into it, and that just exacerbates the heat in the rear tires, sending that truck around. So in the case of now the damage on the right side of that 66, is that going to make it even harder for that truck to turn off the corner?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to make it even harder to turn off the corner set. It's going to be a lot harder to really snag that grip. That truck is really going to want to tail whip off of the corner, and it's just so hard. And you're talking about turns 1 and 2, the exit. Another reason why it's so difficult is that transition, that banking transition off of the corner of 1 and 2 is a very awkward transition, to say the least, as Pfeffer has now come down pit lane.
Also had an exchange for what is now second, was third. Casey Tucker got around his teammate Christopher Hill. So keep an eye on that 82. He's been setting down some pretty consistent lap times. He is currently 3.5, well, almost 4 seconds behind Boyd Hogan, but keep an eye on this guy in the closing stages.
We'll have to see when these drivers decide to make potentially their last pit stop of the day. Currently, Hogan and Tucker still out on the racetrack.
Daniel Simmons also came down pit lane. You saw Pfeffer, Jamie Knopf in the 48. John Theodore coming down this time in the 27. So it looks like a lot of these guys coming down pit road, closing in on 60 laps to go. The fuel window is obviously open to make it the rest of the way. Now it all comes down to the money stop. Don't speed on pit road. Get that pit stop executed to perfection and hope that you can turn a good enough out lap to be able to gain a position or two once everything cycles around.
Here comes Casey Tucker. Casey Tucker is going to come down pit road, and it looked like the lap car
Whoa!
Van Gelder missed pit road behind him.
You are correct. Fortunately, we've got that little bit of runoff on the apron on the front straightaway, so Van Gelder able to utilize that and stay out of the way of lead lap trucks going around him. A costly mistake there for Van Gelder, running currently in the 10th position, 1 lap down. He'll lose a couple more spots with that loss of momentum and that loss of speed. Christopher Hill's in this time. Braxton Deweese as well from inside of the top 5.
Guy that's been on a mission since he came down pit road is Pfeffer. Pfeffer has almost gotten into a couple of drivers just trying to get past them. Just the difference in tires makes it so difficult for that number 66 machine.
And that's something, obviously, that drivers have not really had to experience much here today. For the most part, outside of maybe a couple of drivers, everybody has been on the same strategy in the early going, so the braking zones have all been consistent. To your point now, Christopher Pfeffer having to kind of change it up. Some drivers going to be lifting a lot earlier on older tires while he can drive it deep into the corner with the fresh Goodyears.
Exactly. It just tends to cause problems. Drivers on different strategies, and that's where the caution will usually come out on these longer green flag runs, is right in the middle of the pit window as Boyd Hogan has came onto pit lane, and now it looks like Delaney's on pit lane as well.
Turns the race lead over to Agnell Phillip, who is going to continue to stay out. We're waiting on him and Kevin Roy to complete this cycle of green flag pit stops and more than likely put everybody safe to make it on fuel the rest of this race. Extra pit stop for the 99 of Christopher Hill.
You hate to see it. Christopher Hill possibly had gotten a penalty, and the number 99 machine has to come back down pit road after he was in the 3rd or 4th. So he was battling for the 3rd spot right at the beginning of the pit window.
Tough break there for Christopher Hill. Former winner this season back at Auto Club. Came into this race 4th in the overall standings. I'm trying to remember. Maybe I'm thinking of a different driver, but I think that Christopher Hill might have gotten hit with a speeding penalty back at, was it our last broadcast at Atlanta? I think this is the 2nd time that he's been hit by the speeding police here this season.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want, is those sort of mistakes. Because you're just kicking yourself with mistakes like that.
At this point in time, Boyd Hogan and Christopher Pfeffer are the only drivers on the lead lap, along with your current race leader, Agnell Phillip. So Phillip is hoping and praying he can get a caution to come out and trap a number of these guys -1 as Kevin Roy has finally hit pit lane. So we're only waiting on the 94 at this point in time. But Christopher Pfeffer, you talked about him being on a mission. Right now, when things cycle around, he will be back out in front by over 4 seconds over Boyd Hogan. So credit to him. After getting into the wall, he's certainly turned things around, and now it's looking like the 96 of Boyd Hogan, rather than trying to run away with this thing, he's back in chase mode.
And Phillip comes down pit road, but he almost hit the barrels. He came inches away from hitting the barrels, was completely sideways coming onto pit lane, but he gets onto pit lane, and I think he was under the speed limit, so I don't think he'll get a speeding penalty, that number 94 machine, but that will finish up pit stops. You were talking about Pfeffer and Hogan. You were talking about how Pfeffer has over a 4-second lead. Well, now it's 3.9. You have to look at the difference in lap times between those drivers. Right now, Hogan's consistently putting up 0.2 quicker each lap. He's 0.2 quicker each lap. That last time by, he was 0.3 quicker. So at that pace, Hogan will drive down Pfeffer.
He's got 7 lap fresher tires, does Boyd Hogan. He's got a lot of laps to work with as well, as we're now at the 3/4 mark at this 3/4 mile racetrack. 50 laps to go next time by. Not certain what the penalty was for Christopher Hill, forcing him to come down a second time, but definitely a speeding penalty for another driver that was having a good run. Jamie Knopf was pegged for speeding. He had to serve a 30-second penalty, and now, subsequently, is 2 laps down back in the 15th position. So the money stop has bitten a couple of drivers who have been up inside the top 10 consistently all night long.
And Pfeffer's right here in the middle of traffic here. A very close call there between Dobbs and Webb. He really sends it in there into the corner, trying to get underneath Dobbs and Webb, trying to get through this lap traffic, because he knows that Hogan's coming. Hogan's already 2.5 seconds back of Pfeffer.
I'm a little worried for Pfeffer as well, in the fact that when he lost the lead to Boyd Hogan, he really worked hard to try to get it back, and it looked like he really used up his stuff. Started to fall back a 1.5 seconds, then 2 seconds. Well, I'm a little worried that he might be using up his stuff a little too much again to keep the gap between himself and Boyd Hogan, especially trying to get through this traffic. There you see now, 66.96 on the same straightaway.
And the 96 of Hogan is catching him up quick. I just said a moment ago he was 2.5 seconds back. Well, now he's 1.9 seconds back. He is driving down the number 66 very quickly. That's the number 96 of Boyd Hogan.
Hogan now going to have to deal with the 22 of Alan Dobbs. Would be, if we were to get a caution, the first car 1 lap down and get the lucky dog. So we have 10 drivers on the lead lap. Ooh, big slide there for the 22 off of turn number 4. Casey Tucker is now up to 3rd. Jonathan Delaney in 4th. Nathan Jurgensen right there in that 5th position. That's how they run inside your top 5 after the cycle of green flag pit stops. And now we're basically in the point of, if we don't see a caution from now to the checkers, you got what you got, do what you can with it.
Yeah, you've made your bet at this point. Now you got to lay in it. And that's what a lot of these drivers are going to be dealing with at this point. Number 4 getting way out of the groove right there. It looked like Clement got way out of the groove and got out of the way of the race leader there. As now Pfeffer is going to attack Simmons, and now he's going to put Simmons a lap down. Now there's only 9 drivers on the lead lap, as Simmons is now in the lucky dog position.
It's tough being the race leader if you're Pfeffer when you come up on trucks like Daniel Simmons. Simmons was the last truck on the lead lap, and he was going to at least try to put up a fight to stay on the lead lap. Once the race leader gets around you, though, you're then kind of focused on the driver. You're battling for the free pass position. So when Hogan catches up to Daniel Simmons, he'll probably move out of the way. So it was more of a battle for Pfeffer to get around the 46 than Hogan's going to have to deal with, and that's going to close the gap up even more.
And it's always tougher for the race leader to get past lap traffic. The race leader is kind of like the offensive lineman, while right now 2nd place, Boyd Hogan's like the quarterback or running back. He's just standing right in behind the O-line.
Might have a battle for 6th. The fresher tires of Agnell Phillip trying to cut his way back up into the top 5. Braxton Deweese slides up a little bit there off of turn number 4. Agnell Phillip looking to take advantage. There's about 8 lap difference in the Goodyears on the 94 to the 8. They're having to make their way around Patrick Stein before Agnell Phillip can go to work. Looks like he might be showing the nose here into turns 3 and 4. Braxton Deweese going to throw the block for the time being. Agnell Phillip might rattle his cage a bit here off the final corner.
We're going to see what Phillip does here in 1 and 2. He's looking to send it on Braxton Deweese, and he will send it, indeed, sends it all the way through the corner. Can he make it stick on the exit? And he will. He'll be able to cut up in front of Deweese, but he doesn't quite yet.
Now it looks like he's going to definitely be able to get back to the throttle sooner, has the grip, and he will clear for that position. Also had a pass for 12th place back outside of the top 10. Kevin Roy getting around Brandon Andrews. Right now, for Daniel Simmons, it looks like he would still be in the top 10 in the points, running inside of the 10th position. And Kevin Roy a couple of spots back in 12th. So good job there by Daniel Simmons, preserving the gap at least for the time being. As, speaking of gap, there is none now. Pfeffer about maybe a truck length and a half ahead of Boyd Hogan, and we still have a little less than 40 laps to go.
Here comes Boyd Hogan in the number 96 machine, looking to take the race lead back from his teammate of Christopher Pfeffer. He's right there on his bumper. What does he do here? Does he take his time with the move? There's still plenty of time in the race.
Yeah, I think if you're Boyd Hogan, well, he's actually going to try the top side here around Christopher Pfeffer. The last thing you want to do is wreck a teammate. You know you've got fresher tires. You know you've got a faster truck. Pfeffer almost squeezes him up into the outside wall, though. Hogan still staying there to driver's right as they'll remain side by side through 3 and 4. Look how Boyd Hogan's able to get back to the throttle so much sooner there on the top side. Half a truck length advantage going into turn 1. He should have the pass completed out of turn number 2.
Hogan completes this pass and Pfeffer's not able to get back next to him. Hogan's going to check out on Pfeffer. And there he goes. Pfeffer's not going to be able to get back next to him in 3 and 4. Hogan's going to be able to check out on Pfeffer at this point. At this point, Christopher Pfeffer's really going to be hoping for Hogan to either make a mistake or hope a caution flag comes out to get himself back into the race.
Now Pfeffer's got to make sure that he can hang on to the second spot, because about a little more than 3 seconds back is Casey Tucker in the 3rd position, but Tucker's got about 3-4 lap fresher tires than Pfeffer does. So is 35 laps enough time for Tucker to get up there, maybe snipe the 2nd position? Pfeffer, if he can hold on, will be finishing 2nd place to Boyd Hogan for the 2nd week in a row. As a driver, how does that eat away at you and just make you more motivated for the next week?
Nothing motivates you more than just coming 1 spot short, especially coming 1 spot short again and again. And that's what we're seeing right now with the number 66 of Pfeffer currently behind Hogan. Still many laps left. There still could be a caution flag that comes out. We've seen drivers self-spin off of the corner, so anything could happen.
How about this ahead of the race leader? Got a couple of trucks double wide. One of those, the yellow truck, is Matthew Van Gelder. I believe the other truck is the 24 of Brandon Andrews, as now Hogan will put both of them in his rearview mirror, but a bit of a blockade momentarily for the race leader last time down the back straightaway.
You were talking a little bit ago about that playoff cutoff. Another driver I would like to mention that is having good day right outside the cutoff is Braxton Deweese. Came into this race just 7 points outside of the playoffs. He snagged some stage points, and he's sitting in the seventh position. So it's possible that he can even get into the top 10 at the end of this race.
He's just ahead of a battle, maybe an important battle there for the 15th position. Christopher Hill, Jamie Knopf, 2 drivers that had to serve penalties under that last round of green flag pit stops. Hill going to take that spot from Jamie Knopf, just behind the aforementioned Braxton Deweese. Another driver that's also having a good run here today as well, who ran into some early issues, but it didn't really affect him the way it's affected other drivers here tonight, and that's John Theodore. Remember, he had that contact between himself and Kenny Brady off of turn 4 when the two of them had that bit of gap whack with the side draft. Now, he didn't sustain any damage, but at the same time, it kind of put him a little bit back there inside the top 10. He's still in that 8th position. Looks like he's in line for a good points night.
Definitely a very impressive performance from John Theodore, driver of the number 27, able to keep himself in the race after that contact with Brady. And it looks like he may have gotten into the wall at some point throughout the day, and he's just been hanging around in the top 10 most of the day.
I feel we kind of got to give a Stay In It award to Alan Dobbs, the 22. I mean, he's had a very adventurous evening, had a bit of a scare on the back straightaway in the first 5 laps of this race, was up and into the wall in turn 3, ended up staying on the lead lap, got the truck repaired as best as he could, fell a lap down, got the lucky dog back in the lead lap. He's fallen a lap down again here under this green flag run, but right now in the 11th position, might be able to get up inside the top 10 if one of our top 10 drivers has an issue in these final 25 laps, but I'll tell you what, 11th place sounds awfully good in a 25-car field rather than down outside of the top 15.
Yeah, Dobbs in the first 15, 20 laps of this event was just struggling very hard with his handling on that machine, and he's really seemed to figure out the handling on that number 22 machine, and he's gotten himself up to the 11th position. He is 1 lap down, but there's still over 20 laps left, and who knows what could happen in the last 20 laps.
And want to remind everybody that next week these drivers continue the short track scene, as they'll be going to the paperclip short track of Martinsville at Martinsville, Virginia. We will not have coverage of that, but then we will be back on April 13th to bring you coverage of the third of the trifecta of the short tracks. We're going to be at Bristol Motor Speedway, so hope you guys join us for that. You wonder if Boyd Hogan might be able to pull off the trifecta there. I mean, what do you think? Maybe go 3 for 3 at the short tracks. He's going to have some company, but right now he's in line for back-to-back victories. Coda last week and Richmond here tonight.
It's definitely possible. Boyd Hogan's been competitive. He's been competing for the win in every race so far this season. He's been one of the most competitive drivers throughout the season, so I could definitely see him winning all 3 races, but at the same time, I could see him losing all 3 races, even this one. This is a very competitive series. If we get a caution here at the end of this race and everybody takes tires, there's no reason to say that Pfeffer or Tucker or even Delaney could get past Hogan.
Interesting too. We talk about Richmond, Martinsville, Bristol. Then the track doesn't get all that much longer. We head to the Monster Mile the following week at Dover International. Here's a battle that might be brewing in the final 20 laps of this race. Nathan Jurgensen holding the 6th position, but only by a couple of truck lengths back to Braxton Deweese. Obviously, Jurgensen was way off sequence from everybody else. Came down pit road prior to the stage caution, stayed out when the stage yellow came out. So he's been at a disadvantage tire-wise to everybody around him pretty much since the halfway point of this race. He's got about 8 lap older tires than Deweese, and we're starting to see that the longer this run goes on, as Deweese has thoughts about sniping that 6th position away in the closing stages.
This would be really big for Deweese. I was mentioning how he was just outside the playoff window coming into this race, only 7 points outside of 10th place, and this would just be another point he could snag here by passing the number 31 of Jurgensen.
Back there, Deweese actually has his hands full right now with Christopher Hill. That would not be a battle for position. Hill right now multiple laps down in the 15th position, but that doesn't stop him from having a fast truck. We'll see if maybe he can kind of preoccupy Braxton Deweese for Jurgensen for the time being, or if Deweese is going to be able to utilize him to draft up to the 31. Oh boy, you saw the back end of Jurgensen step out just a tiny bit there off of turn 2, so he's really feeling the after effects of that tire wear down on those rear Goodyears, and that gap continues to close up slowly but surely. Deweese might have a run on him here in the next lap or 2.
Yeah, you see Jurgensen, he's really pushing that truck to its limits. He knows he's on the older tires, and he's trying his best to stay in front of the 8 car of Braxton Deweese.
Couple of drivers here tonight running a part-time schedule, doing really well. Delaney, the highest of those, currently in the 4th position. Great run for him. Agnell Phillip right now, last truck in the top 5, and Nathan Jurgensen there in the 41. So you got part-timers running 4th through 6th at this point in time. 15 laps to go this next time by for Boyd Hogan. The gap back to Christopher Pfeffer is about 3.5 seconds, and I mentioned keep an eye on maybe him losing that spot to Casey Tucker. Last time we checked in, it was 3.5 seconds from Pfeffer back to Casey Tucker. It's now less than a second back to the 82.
I mentioned it earlier, Seth. The drivers that tend to pit later on in the run will have the speed throughout the run, and that's just the case right here with Casey Tucker and Christopher Pfeffer. Christopher Pfeffer pitted earlier on in the run, and Casey Tucker, honestly, throughout most of the day, Pfeffer has shown more speed than Tucker, and now Tucker has a lot more speed than Pfeffer on the longer run because of pitting later on the run.
Braxton Deweese completes the pass for 6th. So we will now jump up here to the possible battle for the runner-up spot. Still a little bit of time to work with for Casey Tucker, but he certainly has to be consistent with his lap times, cannot afford a slip-up if he's going to be in the same zip code as Pfeffer to try and get that 2nd spot. This all going on 3.5 seconds behind Boyd Hogan, who at this point in time is just in hit-your-marks mode. Don't make a mistake, and hopefully don't look up at the flag stand and see a yellow flag in the flagman's hand.
Yeah, that's what Boyd Hogan's really hoping for right now, because he can even afford a little bit of a mistake. He can get a little sideways, get a little in the wall. He has over a 4-second lead right now, so he can afford to make a small mistake, but nothing too big. The thing he's really hoping for is that there isn't a caution flag before the end of this race.
Well, Boyd Hogan, coming into tonight, has 4 top 10 finishes in the first 5 races of the season. He has only 2 top 5s, however. Those 2 top 5s were trips to victory lane. So it looks like he may be en route to top 5 number 3, and win number 3 is on board with Casey Tucker as he now closes up on Christopher Pfeffer. Will show the nose to the inside. Pfeffer, I think he might have been riding the wall a little bit there down the back straightaway. I don't know if he was trying to get out of the way of the 82 or just had a bad exit off the second corner, but lost momentum and now loses second place. So Tucker up to the runner-up spot with 10 to go.
Yeah, Pfeffer got into the wall on the back straightaway there, going into 3 and 4, maybe trying to prep his line for the entrance of 3 and 4, and just got up into the wall in the number 66 machine, which made it a pretty easy pass for Tucker. Casey Tucker up to his highest position of the day, up into the second spot with just under 10 laps to go here at Richmond.
We talk about the gap from Hogan back to Tucker, and it just kind of points out the pace that Boyd Hogan has had here tonight. Another thing that really jumps out, showing just how fast this Toyota has been, is the fact that just moments ago, he got around John Theodore, who is running in the 8th position. So only 7 trucks are on the lead lap at this point in time. I think that's going to be the number of trucks on the lead lap by the checkers, as it's about a good 5-6 seconds before Hogan would get up to Nathan Jurgensen. I don't think he's got enough laps to do that, and I'm honestly not sure he'd want to push it that hard to catch up to Jurgensen at this point in time with how well in hand he's got this race lead.
Hogan just needs to hit his marks and play it safe and just make sure he can make it to the finish and hope that everybody else can do the same without a caution flag.
This evening we have had caution wave 4 times, 3 times for cause. The 3rd time the caution waved here tonight was for the stage yellow. These drivers have done a great job for the most part of keeping it clean this evening. Being a short track, as I say that, Kevin Roy nearly loses it off of turn number 2. Boyd Hogan has been out in front for the majority of the second half of this race. Christopher Pfeffer led the first half, got the stage victory. We saw Nathan Jurgensen out in front for a time. Agnell Phillip led a couple of laps under green flag pit stop. So we've had a couple of lead changes here this evening, but after Hogan got out in that clean air, nobody has been able to touch him. He's going to come around and see 4 to go. He's also going to see 4 trucks just up ahead of him. There's a gaggle of machines that he's going to have to deal with in the closing stages, it looks like.
I would be a little frightened if I were Hogan. Honestly, if I approached them, I wouldn't even attempt to pass those 4 drivers. I would just stay in behind them, because Tucker doesn't have enough time to make up that gap that there is.
See if he's going to get up here in this pack, or will he be willing to back off and just let them have at it? Currently preserving over a 5-second lead back to Casey Tucker, and also only 3 laps remaining in this race. Looks like he's going to at least catch the tail end of this group, as he'll get around the 98 of Patrick Stein. Brandon Andrews next on his hit list. Then he'll have a bit of a gap to a pack of 3 trucks. 2 laps to go here this evening, the final mile and a half at Richmond International Raceway.
2 laps remaining. Does Boyd Hogan make it back around to the white flag and make this race official? He has the couple of lap drivers in front of him. What does he do with those? He's going to go underneath Clement, and he will make it to the start-finish line. This race is now official.
Boyd Hogan just 4 corners away from his 3rd win of the season. 2nd straight victory this year, coming off the heels of the checkers last week at Circuit of the Americas. Through 3 and 4, nice and smooth, not going to even deal with the truck up ahead of him. The Reaper Speedlab 200 belongs to Boyd Hogan, who finally is going to spin out as he does a victory drift across the start-finish line.
Boyd Hogan gets his 3rd win in 4 races. A very impressive performance once again from Hogan, able to come home with the victory. Tucker able to come home 2nd, Pfeffer in 3rd, Delaney in 4th, Phillip in 5th, and Deweese comes across the line in 6th, and Jurgensen in 7th as your lead lap drivers. Very impressive performance from some of these guys.
Hard-fought victory there for Boyd Hogan, who ran 2nd the majority of the first half of this race. then got out in front, lost the race lead after that last cycle of pit stops, but very slowly, methodically, made his way around his teammate Christopher Pfeffer to take the race lead back and then set sail. And now he will burn it down here in Richmond, Virginia, in front of these Richmond International Raceway fans, celebrating win number 3 on the season. He will continue to extend his points lead as well, heading into the second of our short track stints next week at Martinsville Speedway.
Very great performance from Boyd Hogan and from Legacy Esports in general, able to snag the 1-2-3 finish with Hogan, Tucker, and Pfeffer. Hill obviously had that penalty late, and then Tanner Love had his issues early, but good performance from Legacy Esports here today at Richmond.
Absolutely. As we take a look at the finishing results from this evening, Braxton Deweese, another solid outing for him in 6th. Nice job there by Nathan Jurgensen, who, since the second half of this race, was completely off strategy, had to fight with those old tires. He's going to hang on for a top 10 run in 7th. John Theodore will finish in 8th. TJ Crampton will finish in 9th. He should stay up there potentially in the second spot in the points, but he will have a much more sizable points gap between himself and Boyd Hogan heading to Martinsville next week. Daniel Simmons going to hang on to that 10th spot. And I mean, you mentioned it, Kyle. It kind of seems like it's going to be the battle all season long between Simmons and Roy, because Roy's going to finish one position behind here, 11th place tonight. Alan Dobbs battled back after early issues for 12th. Van Gelder, 13th. Christopher Hill and Jamie Knopf had to overcome pit road penalties on that last pit stop. They'll finish in 14th and 15th after running in the top 10 pretty much the entire evening. Then the rest of these drivers had some struggles this evening. Andrews, Rick Webb, Patrick Stein, Richard Clement, Corey Hassler. They complete the top 20, and they were the trucks that crossed the line to take the checkered flag. The rest of these drivers finished back in the garage area, most notably Andrew Navarro and Kenny Brady, both early exits from this race here tonight.
You hate to see some of those drivers exit as early as they did, especially Navarro and Brady, who's shown a lot of speed in practice and seemed like they'd possibly be competitors for the win today, and it just wasn't able to happen here today for them.
Kenny Brady, a former winner this season, and Andrew Navarro came into this race 8 points above the cut line. He might be on the outside looking in when we get to Martinsville next week. Well, these drivers put on a heck of a show here this evening, completing 200 circuits at the Richmond International Raceway. As we saw with our onboards, it was certainly no easy task. They must be worn out, but hopefully we'll be able to get some driver insight of what they had to deal with here tonight. As let's see if we can interview some of our top 3 finishers, and let's see if we can get the guy that brought it home P3. It looks like we may not have Christopher Pfeffer available, so we'll wait and see if we can get in touch with him. For now, we'll leapfrog just for the moment and see if we can get tonight's runner-up finisher. Let's talk with Casey Tucker. Hey, Casey, it's Kyle and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, man, I got y'all. How you doing?
Doing good. I'll tell you what, we were kind of flip-flopping here with the timing of the early cautions and not knowing if maybe we might see a late race yellow as to who had the better short-run truck, who had the better long-run truck. It really looked like, especially on that last run, your truck dialed in really well on the long run. You were able to pick up some spots on pit road, get that second spot before we got around to take the checkered flag. I mean, do you think if we had gotten a late race yellow that you would have had something there for the 96?
There's a chance I could have maybe gave him a little bit of a race, but he's pretty good at this place. So I'm gonna have to say this is probably one of my worst tracks. Honestly, I don't actually like the track very much at all. So the fact that I was able to kind of stabilize and run what I was running, honestly, is more of a tribute to the car that our guys built more than a tribute to my driving style.
You mentioned the word stabilize. Obviously, I think that was a big goal for a lot of drivers here this evening. Saw, especially in the early stages, a lot of drivers getting loose off of turn 2, a big cause of a number of our yellows here tonight. Now, we know that obviously it doesn't matter what short track it is. That loose sensation's not going to go away, especially with the tire buildup. But, what kind of adjustments did you make to the truck to kind of counter something like that, especially preparing for a long green flag run, as we saw a couple of those here tonight?
Yeah, on the pit stop, I did tighten it up just a little bit, but other than that, not a whole lot. It was pretty good as is. I just needed a little more drive off on the long run, which I felt like I got as close to as much of that as I could get. There's only so much more to get out there, really, with as fine tuned as these setups are. So I got the little bit extra I could get, and then I just kind of settled in and tried to be as consistent and smooth as I could because I knew the truck was good enough. It was just down to me to actually run the laps and get it up into P2.
You said Richmond not considered one of your best racetracks. This is going to be the first of 3 short tracks back to back to back that we're going to. We got Martinsville next week. We got Bristol the following week. So, I mean, obviously this has got to give you some confidence, but are any of those 2 particular tracks ones that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, man, I really love any short track. It's just Richmond, honestly. I don't know what it is about this place, but it's probably one of my least favorite tracks ever. Period. But I do love Martinsville and I do love Bristol. Those are some of my favorite tracks. So it'd be nicer if we had a little bit more fall off, to be honest. But with what we have, it's still pretty fun.
Well, Casey, a great run for you here tonight. We know you're only part-time, but great performance. Congratulations. Now we're going to give you the opportunity to do some thank yous and some shout-outs to the people and sponsors that helped get you to this runner-up spot.
Yeah, man. Of course, thanks to Legacy Esports, Reaper Speed Labs, Blaster Products, Champion Power Equipment, Curb Records, BSM Blackstone Management, and then AC Cold as Ice. They help us out a lot over here at Legacy, and yeah, all the guys who worked on the setup, man. I didn't have a whole lot to do with it this week, so I got to thank them. It's all up to them.
Well, second place is where Casey Tucker brings the number 82 home here this evening in the Reaper Speed Lab 200. Congratulations once again, Casey, and maybe we'll see you at Bristol in a couple of weeks' time. Maybe see you be able to get one position better.
Yeah, I hope so. That'd be awesome. I'll see y'all at Bristol.
Casey Tucker finishing second place here tonight. The guy that's down in victory lane. Kyle, I believe you've got him dialed up.
Boyd Hogan, Kyle and Seth up in the booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Boyd, able to get the job done again here today. What was maybe going through your mind in those last few laps while you're holding the race lead? Were you just kind of hoping that the next flag you would see would be the checkers?
Yeah, pretty much just the usual hopes. Just hoping a yellow doesn't come out, hoping we can just get it done under green. And I don't know, I was kind of curious to see where everybody ended up. And Pfeffer and Casey, I know, kind of had a tighter battle there towards the end. So I was kind of just listening to them and hanging out, really.
How was it racing for your race team today, Legacy Esports? All 5 of your cars seemed very strong today. You were able to snag a 1, 2, 3 today.
Yeah. The truck feels really good. I'm excited in a way for tomorrow. But at the same time, I mean, the racing sucks around here. Like it's brutal. The track is amazing. It's just the dirty air is terrible. When you're around somebody, especially when you're around somebody on a similar set. And Pfeffer and I are like really, really close on pace around here and have been for, I mean, the last year. Just testing back and forth because we've been kind of doing it for long enough that we're pretty much keyed up with each other. But it sucks because we could have been door to door for 40 or 50 laps there if we didn't have so much aero plow or any of that. Whether it was him in front or me in front, like we could have been battling the whole way. But it's just y'all got robbed of a battle because you can't pass, you can't get anywhere near the truck in front of you, and unless you have just a way better truck. And obviously, guys at Legacy Esports, everybody who's busted ass for Richmond, they put out a good enough pace. We get past everybody else, just can't pass each other. So
It seemed like the battle was amongst yourselves. You and Pfeffer seemed like the strongest two throughout most of the day, and then on that last run, you were able to pull it out and come home with the victory. But how do you feel about short tracks in general? Because these next couple weeks are really all going to be about short tracks here.
yeah, I love them. The short tracks are awesome. I've been looking forward to this week for honestly since the Road to Pro schedule came out. It just like I said, it sucks. It's nowhere near as racy and qualifying and restarts means that much more, which, I mean, usually, especially on restarts, obviously fine with that, but you hate kind of being put in that box, and so that's going to make everything a lot more hectic, especially over the next couple of weeks, because this isn't going to go away. It's probably going to be worse at Bristol, and it's horrible at Martinsville, and that's the best track to me on the sim. So I don't know. The arrow plow's killing them, but the short tracks are still badass to drive around. I'll tell you that.
I always enjoy short tracks, Rubbin's racing. It's always a good time racing around the short tracks. But before we let you go, Boyd, anybody you have to thank? Any sponsors for your finish tonight?
Yeah. Gotta thank TRD, dude. Fantastic engine department over there. That was uncapped tonight. That was a good time. Champion, Cincinnati, Reaper Speedlab, Green Mountain Grills, Kevin Kirchar for all he's done for us, Gale Force Shocks, just everybody who's been part of Legacy Esports and putting up with everybody else's bullshit over the last year and a half, because there's been a lot of it, but none of us seem to care, so we're having a good time, and hopefully we have a good run there tomorrow. Also, shout out to my grandpa there. I know he watches every week, and he's been liking the show y'all put on, so appreciate all your efforts, and yeah, on to Richmond tomorrow for Road to Pro, and then I think Martinsville, isn't it?
Yep, next week you guys will be at Martinsville.
All right.
Well,
Hell
I
yeah.
appreciate you talking to us, Boyd, and good luck tomorrow and good luck next week at Martinsville, and we hope to speak to you after Bristol in 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Boyd.
Thank you.
All right, Seth. I think that might be it with interviews. I don't think we're going to be able to get Christopher Pfeffer in here this evening.
Looks like you're correct. So, unfortunately, not able to talk with our third place finisher here tonight, but a good points night overall as well for Christopher Pfeffer. Came into this race inside the top 10 in the point standings off that runner-up finish last week. Got himself a stage victory here tonight, so he's got a playoff point towards the championship and still brings it home in the podium as well in third place. So certainly nothing to be ashamed of, and going to be interesting to see if, if not next week when we're not able to broadcast at Martinsville, maybe we'll see him be able to pick up a checkered flag the following week at Bristol Motor Speedway. But at least here tonight, talk about that trifecta of short tracks. Really good performance out of the entire field. We only saw 3 cautions come out for on-track incidents. The tracks are going to get shorter, though, as we get closer towards Bristol Motor Speedway. Tonight was 3/4 of a mile. Next week, it's, I believe, 5.66, I think, is the official length of Martinsville, and then it's a flat half mile for Bristol. So as the trucks get closer and the racing's a little bit more congested, I mean, what do we expect to see for storylines when we get to Bristol in 2 weeks off of Martinsville next week?
I just expect complete craziness when we get to Bristol, Seth, because we just came back. We just finished up Richmond. These drivers are about to go to Martinsville next week, and I bet some rivalries and some exchanges from Martinsville carry over to Bristol the next week, and Bristol just gets really crazy, Seth, no matter what.
Well, where better to settle the score than the last great Coliseum, huh? That's where we're going to be bringing you guys the next broadcast here for the MSRA Reaper Speedlab Truck Series, April 13th. We will be at Bristol Motor Speedway as these drivers will be heading to Martinsville next week. Next time that you'll see us here on the Flatout Racing Network will be Saturday afternoon. It's the big race for the Season 5 Dark Horse Racing Series drivers, the Indianapolis 500. They're qualifying actually taking place here tonight, and they will be setting the field for Saturday's race. Green flag going to be flying at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Hope you guys will join us for that one. But Kyle, it's been a great one here this evening at Richmond International Raceway. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
Appreciate you as well, Seth. It was a great race. Legacy really came out and performed, and Boyd Hogan was able to get the job done. His 3rd win in 4 races for Boyd Hogan, and we look forward to Bristol now.
Absolutely. Thanks to everybody that tuned in tonight. We appreciate you, and we hope that you tune in 2 weeks' time when we bring you coverage of this series from Bristol Motor Speedway. For Kyle Lawrence, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night, folks. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.